In this special edition video, 3rd edition Age of Sigmar, so no one should be really surprised that 3rd edition Age of Sigmar is incoming because, you know, Games Workshop's been talking about it for quite some time. They sent me this copy in the mail for free, but didn't tell me anything to say or anything like that. So this is just going to be an overview. There's not really opinion too much here. I mean, there's always a little bit of opinion, I guess. But yeah, just to get this out of the way, as always, they sent me this to me. I mean, sometimes actually they don't send me stuff and then I go out and buy it. But in this situation, it came in the FedEx. So big honkin' box, which we're kind of, you know, generally accustomed to these days. Rules are not written inside the lid, which is weird. Anyway, again, we got ourselves a big old piece of artwork to protect the box contents from the box, I'm assuming. Oh, look at that. Got a big old Age of Sigmar logo. And there's a lot of plastic in here, as per usual. And you've been seeing a lot of the models and things like that. These are not exactly orcs. They're orc-ish. They're orc-like. Initially, I was kind of looking at them and going, well, I don't know. I'm not sure. But then I built and painted 3 of them. Built them yesterday. I got the box 2 days ago. Anyway, and I painted 3 of them today. And actually, I really enjoy these new kind of orcs, orclings, orclets. I don't know. Orc light. I'm not quite sure because they're not as cartoony and almost satirical. They're, for lack of a better word, in my opinion, a little bit more realistic looking. Their arms aren't all that big around, you know, to scale. It's just I do wonder, and I don't know this for sure, but I do wonder if maybe Games Workshop is starting to try to head away from the cartooniness, if that's a word, and head towards this new type of orc. I don't know. There's a lot of different stuff in here, but there's a lot of sprues in here. There's a lot of them. So we've got a lot of these little guys, which I haven't built any of them yet, but I'm going to be doing so soon. On the side of the box, we've got some artwork. You can see down there that you can see like some painting examples and things like that, but they don't have the names on the side. We've got a lot of other pieces in here. There's a couple of different Stormcast pieces. You've seen the pictures. You know what's coming. There's the big Stormcast lady with the wings standing on top of a piece of terrain and all that kind of stuff. I think I'm going to actually turn that into maybe a statue. I think that would be really cool to use as a statue for something. And then I don't really play Age of Sigmar. I play Warcry, so when they come out for stats for this Warcry, boom, on board. But currently, yeah, otherwise no. Here's a big scary orc person standing on what looks to be a busted up, Stormcast Eternal and all that stuff. Yeah, so there's lots of pits. You've seen amazing pictures of these things. They're all in gray plastic, so it's not like it's a 2-color plastic. Sometimes they do, like, in certain sets, they'll be like, oh, it's in red plastic and the other part's in gray plastic or something like that. But they didn't do that with these because these are serious models, so they're all in gray. Bunch of the new Stormcast, who are a lot skinnier, less chunky, I think is the technical term, and that's fine. Again, I do wonder if they're just trying to maybe start to change their idea of what models should look like, I don't know, maybe it might have started with the Primaris because they went from being the short and stocky Space Marines who were about the same size as Imperial Guardsmen to now being taller and kind of more like they are in the books. And then when they kind of just recently decided they're going to be making, new Imperial Guard, they're still, well, they're not really new, are they? They're just another sprue thrown in that box, which hopefully we'll see eventually soon. But now they're shorter than the Space Marines, as they always should have been. And now the Stormcast are not so kind of squat and thick. I don't know if it's a technology thing of them being able to mold skinnier stuff. I mean, take a look at, like, if the Cursed City models, a lot of those were very spindly, almost for lack of a better term. So I don't know exactly what it is. I'm guessing, I got to be honest. There's another piece of cardboard in here to protect the book and such from all the plastic. So, again, this is, and I've already opened the book, just FYI. That's why it's not in shrink, but we're going to pull this out. So this is the book. This is a gorgeous book. I love the cover. It's super cool. I love the fact there's not a logo on it or anything. It's just, boom, check that out, This is the time of turmoil. This is the era of war. This is the Age of Sigmar. Kind of, on the nose there, really. Titles in the subtitle. Anyway, it's great looking stuff as we are used to seeing. What's interesting here, though, is that there's about 250 pages of story, lore, fluff, however you want to, put it, out of about 360. There's an incredible amount of story and information about the Age of Sigmar. That, Natch, obviously. There's awesome 2-page art pieces and all that kind of stuff. But just every different piece of the history. People, when Age of Sigmar first launched, people were like, oh man, there's no story, and it's just really, there's a lot of story now, especially if one of the reasons you may be interested in picking up this book alone, and I believe that they will be also selling this separately, not just in the Dominion box as well, when the time comes. But, obviously they will, but it might have the same cover. It might have the actual logo on the cover, so it might be slightly different. I think they kind of did that with, they've done stuff like that before. Anyway, my point is, 250 pages of this is just story. It stops right around, here we see the rules. So it starts, admittedly, there's also some kind of, painting and hobby, which is fun too. So I guess that's not technically story, but there's a lot of not rules in here until you get to about 246, at which point we hit the introduction. And then we go through less than 40 pages of rules. Now, what's interesting to a person like myself who's been playing Age of Sigmar on and off since it started, and who had never played Warhammer Fantasy previous to that, I really enjoyed the fact that the original Age of Sigmar was 4 pages. That was really cool. And then when second edition came out with the Soul Wars box and all that stuff, that was the launch box for that particular edition. Well, now it was more like 16 or so pages, I think. And like I said, now we're creeping up on 40. Now, admittedly, there's pictures and all kinds of stuff going on in there. I also really like, and this I think is an interesting thing too, we did this in the game that Vince and I designed and produced just recently, which is called Rain in Hell, and you may want to check it out, just saying. But they've got this thing where it's you've got your main information here, and then you've got your kind of sidebar that explains the stuff a little bit better in certain situations. Now, they use it a bunch. We laid out our book like this too, and we weren't copying them because our book came out first, just FYI. But so it's a smart way to do it. And we've been seeing it in other books here and there, kind of that sort of situation where you've got one kind of big main column and then you've got these sort of explanation-y things. They've gone even a step further. If you remember, I talked recently about 9th edition Warhammer 40,000 that came out, and they did a lot of bullet points in there. So you're like, okay, here's the next thing we have to think about. There's 4 bullet points, but if you want to really deep into it, you can go and read the paragraph that follows those 4 bullet points, and it's much more explanation. Here, we didn't do that exactly. Here, what we're doing is we're calling out a lot of words in bold and also highlighting them in gray. I don't know if you can see that here, but you've got, they're really trying to make you understand as you skim through the book, which makes it great, frankly, because if you're trying to figure out what is the target number, right there, target number, boom, it's right there on the thing, it's highlighted, it's grayed out. They probably did some testing. If I had to guess, they probably either did some usability testing in-house or worked with some sort of consultants to figure out what's the best way to really call out these things, and then they went ahead and did it, which I really appreciate. They've got some other ones here that are in more of a pink color, but they're more like a warning almost, kind of hey, do not take battle shock tests, for that kind of thing. So that's, again, kind of call outs and stuff like that. We've got our command points, not so much a warning. But I think the layout of it, it's gorgeous. There's tons of all kinds of shenanigans going on and great artwork and photos and stuff like that. But it's also just really interesting to see the way the book is laid out to make it much easier to find stuff, specifically within the rules. They don't do this in the story areas. The story areas, here you get your Flesh Eater Courts, and it's just story. You got some cool artwork kind of faded behind there and everything like that, but not too difficult that you can't read the text. Looking at you, Necromunda books. But yeah, and so there's just a lot of really interesting information in here, but you are, again, getting through the core rules, and you're getting through them in less than about 40 pages. And then after that, you're getting into... Okay. Now we start getting into these interesting sections where they go through and they basically kind of show off different people who work for GW. Here's Ben Johnson's Giants Army, right? And you see that. And then, there's just a bunch about it. And then we start talking about open play, matched play, narrative play, things like that. But then every once in a while, they just kind of cut back to somebody and their stuff. Here's Thomas Elliott's Death Army, right? You got that going on. So it's kind of an interesting way they spread it around and all that kind of stuff. I was wondering if they were going to do something that in this new edition that basically Games Workshop did with 9th edition, where they really started to push the whole concept of combat patrol, right? So it's combat patrol, and it's just 500 points. That's all you got to do. They didn't exactly push it hard in here, but when you do see the points, they are no longer starting off at 1,000 points and then 1,500 points and then 2,000 points. Now the chart starts at 750, it goes up to 3,000. So it's kind of interesting that way, and they explain the different sizes that you should have for your boards. The smallest size is not 22 by 30, but it is 44 by 30. So it's basically 2 war cry or kill team, whichever size, boards kind of put together on the long end, I think. Yeah, that's right. So it's just kind of interesting to see that information and see how they've kind of changed this stuff and gone into, again, the narrative play. And then they talk about Path to Glory and all that kind of stuff, which is a little bit like, I think it's a little bit like Conquest. Here we go. Vanguard, Warband, Brigade, and Legion. Here's where we get into, oh, no, that's something different then. All right, never mind. There was a place where it showed the actual board sizes, and it was going up to 3,000. I think this is maybe more for the narrative play. You're not supposed to go to 3,000, which I can understand. Narrative. So there's a lot of push into narrative here, which I think is really cool, because I like the narrative stuff. I'm into that. So yeah. Okay, so here we got points limits, and they're saying over 2250, and then you go to a 44 by 90, and number of pieces of terrain. This is what I was reading. A number of pieces of terrain is 12 pieces. So yeah, it's all the information that you're going to need, obviously, is in this big book. It's awful large. As far as rules changes, it doesn't seem like there's a whole ton. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I did not do a deep dive in here and compare 2nd edition to 3rd edition, everything like that. It's just what people are saying, that it doesn't seem like there's a ton of... I was talking with Vince, and if you're going to want to know more about the deep dive into the actual rules, if you're watching this today on Sunday when it goes up, technically it's Monday in the UK. Anyway, definitely go check out Warhammer Weekly on Wednesday, because they're going to do a deep dive on the rules, and they're guys that actually understand and care about the rules a whole bunch. So go check that out. There's going to be a link. Pachow. It'll be to Vince's channel, but then once the video goes live, and then I'll change that link probably to the actual episode. I can't click to it now because it's not out there yet. Anyway, other stuff you're going to get is a whole bunch of bases, obviously, for all of those models, and instructions. There's some cards and stuff. The instructions are cool just because they do show all the different types of models out there that are in the box. Some of them in color. This is a little noisier than I would have liked. But yeah, some of them definitely in color, like the big dog guy there and the lady with the wings, and these little guys that I dig. Those little guys are called Hobgrots. That's right. I like the Hobgrots, and then the other dudes are known as, the guys that I built are called Gut Rippas. And so yeah, like I said, the Gut Rippas, they went together pretty easy, so that was a big benefit. They painted actually kind of nice, and I really liked the proportions of them. They were really kind of cool. So I don't know. It's interesting to see what people are going to do with this new edition. I gotta be honest, I feel like 3 years is a little too soon, but I've talked about in the past about why I suspect they're doing it. It's a big portion is because they're on basically like a 3-year schedule. Pretty much every 3 years they reboot the next, what their big titles. And also, 40K made them a whole bunch of money last year, and in corporations, you kind of have to try to always beat last year. So yeah, that's a good reason why this is the year. Now, as far as how easy it's going to be able to get, how easy it's going to be able to, get at your local game store website, your guess is as good as mine. We've seen a lot of production issues with not just Games Workshop, but with companies all over the world. So, I know that the book, obviously, and that kind of stuff, and I'm sure the models eventually will come out in different formats so you can buy those. This Dominion box, though, I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know if it's a situation where they're going to try to crank it out, make to order like they did with Indominus or not. I have no clue. So If you're interested, I would probably talk to your local game store and say, I would like to pre-order, please, so that they make sure that they get you one. I just think it's going to be a good idea. So I think I'm going to actually use some of the Hobgrots and convert them and give them guns and use them in some sci-fi skirmish games that I like to play, because they're just fun little sort of weirdos, and giving them some pistols, maybe a shotgun, I think would be a lot of fun. The Gut Rippas, I'm going to try to build a bunch of those, probably more, not a bunch, but enough for what I think might be usable in Warcry. I was a little surprised there's not any Warcry stats right out of the box in here. I kind of wish that there had been. But instead, like I said, I'm probably just going to build and paint some more of them. They were a lot of fun to do, actually. And like I said, I think this lady here with the big wings, I might turn that into a piece of terrain or something like that, like it's a statue. But yeah, we'll see what goes on. This all should be coming out soon, and it will be interesting to see what the people in the community think about it. I don't think it's really big changes, but from what I've been hearing, if you're into the competitive play, it might be some sort of changes that will affect you, so keep that in mind. But if you're into the narrative and the open and things like that, I don't know that it's a big difference. So hopefully this will be something you'll be able to get soon, like, from your local game store. I would definitely make a pre-order if you're interested from your local game store, because as I've said, we don't know like how this is going to get released, as far as, we've seen obviously lots of other production issues with GW, but also with just any company because of the pandemic that we're luckily starting to come out of to some degree. So if you're interested, talk to your local game store, say, I would like to pre-order, or whatever they do, and let them know, because otherwise this may be something that sells out quickly. It will get produced further, I assume. I don't believe it's going to be another Cursed City, but still, you if you're interested, you're going to want to plan ahead.